Hello everyone, welcome to this video where I'll show you how to use flask-socketio and build a chat application using Flask and a simple JavaScript frontend. So without any further ado, let's jump into the code and I'll show you what I mean. So here we are in our project and here we have a backend and a frontend folder. So we're going to head to our terminal and install a couple of things. So we're going to move to our backend here. And because I'm using Poetry, I'm going to install my dependencies using Poetry. But if you're using pip, you can do pip install. So I'm going to say Poetry, add, and here we need flask-socketio. And we need another dependency called simple websocket. So now that these two dependencies are installed, we need to install a JavaScript local web server. So we're going to do that with npm install. And here we want to pass the global flag because we want to install it on our machine. And here we're going to say local web server. And this will take some time. So now that this is installed, we are done with installing packages. We're going to head to our backend and we're going to go to our extensions and we want to instantiate the socket.io extension we installed. So we're going to say socket.io and here we're going to say socket.io. So we're going to import that from flask-socketio. And here we want to pass one keyword argument. So we're going to say cores allowed origins, and we're going to say all. So now that we have instantiated our extension, we can get out of here, we can go to our application, and here we're going to run our local web server. But we're going to do this in a bit of a different way. So here we're going to say if name is equal to main. Here we want to do something. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go and import our extension. So we're going to say socket.io. We're going to import that. We're going to say init app. We're going to pass our application. And we're going to come here and we're going to say socket.io dot run, and here we need to pass the application again. Okay, so this is our application. We're going to pass a couple of more parameters. So we're going to say app.config.get, and here we want to see if we are in debug mode. Here we're going to say host, and we're going to set this to the local host, and for port we're going to say 5555. Okay, so now that we've done this, we can start our local development server. So we're in our backend, so we can say python 3 app.py. Okay, here we've got a mistake, so this one should have been extensions, and this is because we have two folders. PyCharm thinks that is a package, however it's not. Okay, so our local server is running. Now we need to use socket.io to create a couple of handler functions that will handle several events. So the first one we're going to do is a message event. So here we're going to say socket.io and we're going to say .on, and here this function accepts the type of message. So essentially this is the event. So I'm going to call this message. We could have called this chat, but let's leave it as message. So here we need to create a handling function. So we're going to say handle message. And here we're going to accept some data from the front end. So here we're going to say username. I'm going to say data.get username. I'm going to duplicate this. And here I'm going to say message because we want to get a message. And here we're going to say room. Here we're going to grab the room. Okay. So what we're doing here is we're grabbing the username, the message, and the room. And the reason is because we want to send a message to a specific room. But what are rooms? So rooms are essentially a kind of a grouping of where people or connections might exist, because you might belong in many chat rooms, but you want to send a message to a specific chat room. So that's why we specify the room as well. And here we want to check if you're in the room, because maybe the front end was up to some malicious activity and they might want to send a message to a room they don't belong. So here we're going to say if room in rooms. Okay, and this is a function we can import from flask-socketio. Okay, and this function returns the rooms that you're part of. Okay, or the current user that has sent this message here is part of. Okay, so if you're part of that room, we want to send that message to that room. So we're going to say emit. We're going to import that again from flask-socketio. And here we're going to say what we want to emit. We want to emit a message again. And as a second argument, we're going to pass a dictionary. And here we're going to say username. We're going to pass the username of the user. Here we're going to say message. We're going to pass the message. And finally, we're going to pass a third argument and we're going to say to. And that is the room. Okay? Here we should have used decorator, that's why it's complaining. Okay, so now that we're handling this connection here and we're handling this message, we also want to be able to let people join rooms, because what's the point of sending messages to a room if you cannot join a room? So here we're going to say socketio.onJoin, and here we want to handle the join event. So here we're going to say on join. We're going to pass the data here, and we're going to do a similar thing that we did here. So I'm going to copy this. However, we don't need a message because we're just joining a room. And here can say join room. And this is again a function from flask-socketio. So we're going to pass the room that we want to join. And then we're going to emit a join, and then a dictionary of a username and the username, because we want to know who joined the room. And you'll see why we do this later when we're building the front end. Okay, so now we are joining our room. Excellent. And we want another function when we are going to leave a room, because we want to be able to join a room, but also we want to be able to leave a room. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say socketio.on, and this will be the event of leave. And this could be anything. So it could be leave room. What is important here is the logic within. Okay, so here in our join, we are joining a room, and the same as here, we're going to leave a room. So we're going to say leave on leave. Okay, we want to get some data. And here we want to grab again the username and the room. Okay, and we want to say leave the room. Okay, we're going to import that. And we're going to pass the room again. And then we're going to do a similar thing as we did here. We're going to say emit leave, and the room we want to live from. Okay, so now we've got most of the things that we need for our application to function. So let's check if our application is running. It is. Great. So I'm going to open another session here, and I'm going to cd into the frontend. Okay, so here is our frontend, and I've got a HTML file called chat1. So if we look what is inside here, we've just got a HTML document with a couple of styles and an empty body. Well, we've got a script essentially. The script is a module because we want to import IO from the socket.io CDN. Okay, you could have installed the dependency locally. I'm just using it from the CDN, just for simplicity's sake. So now we want to start building the frontend. Before we do that, let's start our development server. So let's have a look here. And here we're going to use the web server that we installed earlier. And here we're going to say --static.index. And here we're going to say chat1.html. And here we're going to pass the port of 8000. So if we head to our browser, we get an empty page because we haven't added anything yet. And here we're going to add some HTML to be able to use our chat application. So I'm going to create a div that is going to be of class container. And within that, we're going to have the room with the messages. So we're going to say div, which is hidden. And we can also add an ID of room. Okay. And here we're going to have another div, which will be our messages. Okay, so here we're going to have an ID, and this will be messages. All right, and within our messages, we're going to have an unordered list. And we also need the controls other than the messages because we want to be able to send a message and also leave the room. So here we're going to say div.controls. And here we need an input. Okay. And the ID of the input will be message input. So here we're going to say add message. And we need two buttons. So here we're going to say button. And the first one will be an ID of send button. So it's the button to send a message. So here we're going to say send message. We're going to duplicate this. And here we're going to have another ID of leave, which would be to leave the room. So here I'm going to say leave. Okay. So now that we've got this, we also want another group, which will be the group that will be able to join a room. So here we've had the room, and here we're going to have another div, and it will be again controls, and it will be an ID, and the ID will be room select. Okay. And within this, we're going to have an input and a button. So we're going to say input. Okay. The ID will be room input. And the placeholder will be select room. And here we're going to have another button. So we're going to say button, and here we're going to have an ID of join button. go. And here we're going to say join room. So I believe this is all we need so far in terms of our HTML. The rest will be JavaScript. So if we head to our browser, we have a input and a button to join a room. However, we need some logic to wire this up so it can talk to our backend. So we can head here to our JavaScript, and we need a couple of things. So we need to handle the event of joining, leaving, messaging. But before that, we want to create a socket.io instance. So we're going to go here and we're going to say constant socket, and this will be IO. Okay. And here we're going to add the URL that we're making the request to. So we're going to say http:/, and here we're going to say 127.0.0.1, and here we're going to say 5555. And this is the local host with the port we selected. So now that we've got the socket, we can create listeners for this socket. So the first listener we want is the join. So we're going to say socket.on, and here we're going to say join. So when we join, we want a function to handle that. So here we're going to take the value here. Okay. And we want to do something with this. So we essentially want, whenever somebody joins the room, we want to let everybody know that somebody joined. So here we're going to say document.getElementById, and we want to grab the messages, and we want to say inner HTML, and we want to append to that. So we're going to say plus equals. And here I'm going to use a template string, and here I'm going to say list item. Okay. And here we want to specify a class. And here we're going to say info message, because we want the class to be the info message class because it comes from the server. So here I'm going to say that we want to get the username of the user that just joined the group. Okay, so we're going to say value.username, and here we're going to say joined the room. Okay, so here we need another backtick. No, we've got the backtick here, so we're good. Okay. So this is all you need when somebody joins the room. Okay. So now that we've got the join event, whenever somebody joins, we'll get notified. So we want to do the same for the leaving. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to say leave. And here I'm going to say left the room. Okay. So this is nearly identical with this difference here. One more thing we want is to be able to join a room, like I said. So whenever we click on the button, we want the button to grab the value of the room and essentially request from the backend to make us part of the room. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say document.getElementById, and here we want to say join button. Okay, and here I'm going to say add event listener, and we want to click event listener, and as a second argument we want to have the callback. Okay, and here we want to do something. So first we want to grab the room, so we're going to say room is equal to document dot get element by ID, and here we want to say room input. Okay, and then we want to grab the value of that. Okay, so we need to declare this variable here, so I'm going to go up here and then I'm going to say let room. Okay, because we want that to be changing. Okay, so now that this is we fetch the name of the room we want to join, we want to clear this field. So I'm going to grab this again, I'm going to paste it here, and then I'm going to set this to an empty string because we want to reset it. So now that we've done this, we want to actually join the room. So we want to tell the backend, hey, we want to join this room. So we're going to say socket.emit, and here we want to emit a join event, and as a second argument we're going to pass a dictionary, and we're going to say username, and we want to pass our username. So here we're going to say my username, and here let's just specify that here. So you would have grabbed this from your JWT if you were authenticated, but for simplicity's sake we're going to add it here. I'm going to say jsmith. Okay, so we're passing our username, and we want to also tell the backend which room we want to join. So here I'm going to say room. Okay, and this is all you need to let the backend know that you want to join a room. Finally, we want to hide the selection of the room, the buttons that we created here. So we want to hide this, and we want to remove the hidden from the room because we want the room to appear. So all we're going to do is we're going to say document.getElement by ID, and we're going to say room, and then we're going to say class list dot remove, and we want to remove the hidden class. Okay, I'm going to duplicate that, and here we want to say room select, and here we want to add that class. So we want to hide the selection of the room. And this is all we need to do when it comes to joining a room. So if we head to our front end, if we refresh this, if I say main, I want to join the main room, and I click the button, there we go. It says jsmith join the room because the backend is sending a message that we join the room. So this might not seem very logical because we know that we join the room, but when other people are joined in the chat room, they would receive this as well. And you would see this when we create a secondary user that will join this chat. Okay, so here I just noticed that I said leave message, so here we want leave room. Okay, so let's refresh this. Okay, so now that we've got this, we want to be able to leave a room. So what we want to do here is I'm going to duplicate this, and we're going to say leave button. So we want to add an event listener to our leave button, and we want to perform a leave whenever we click that button. So the first thing we need to do is we don't need to grab the room because we already know the room. Okay, and here we want to emit the leave, so we don't need this either. And here we're going to say leave, we got our username and the room, so leave this room, and my username is this. Okay, and we want to essentially flip what we had here. So we want to add the hidden, and we want to remove the hidden from the corresponding divs. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to go to the front end. I'm going to refresh this, and I'm going to say join the main room, and leaving the room removes us from that room. So Finally, we have to essentially create a listener for our messages, because we want all the messages that are being sent to be received in our chat application. So we're going to go here and we're going to say socket.on, and here we've called the event message. Okay, and here we want a callback. So we're going to say function, and here we're receiving the value that is passed from the backend. And here we want to do something with these messages. So here I'm going to say const, and here I'm going to destructure the username and the message. And the reason I'm doing this is because if we go here, we are sending the username and the message as a dictionary. So I'm destructuring it, and here I'm going to say value. Okay. So now that we've got all of this, we need the CSS class for the message, because we want the messages that we send to appear with a grayish color and the ones that we received with a green color. So here I'm going to say const CSS is equal, and here I'm going to say if the username that sent this message is equal to my username, then I want you to assign our my message class. So if we go up here, the my message class is dark gray, and the other message is lime green. Okay, so we said if it's the same as ours, it's us sending the message, otherwise it's other message. Okay, and then all we need to do now is we need to append that messages to our list of messages. So we're going to say document.getElement by ID, and here we're going to say messages, and here we're going to say inner HTML is plus equals, and here we need to add a list item. So here we're going to say li, and here we need the class, and the class will be the CSS class that we specified here. So we're going to say CSS, we don't need that, and here we're going to pass the message. So here we're going to say message. Okay, so this should have been messages. Okay, so now that we have this handler, we also need to be able to attach an event listener on the send message button. So we're going to go here and we're going to say document.get element by ID, and here we're going to say send button, and we're going to add an event listener. This will be click, and here we need a callback. Okay, so we essentially need to grab the text and then send it. So here what we're going to do is we're going to say message is equal to document.getElement by ID, and then here we're going to say message input, and here we're going to grab the value of that message, and here we're going to clear that message again. So we're going to duplicate this here, and here we're going to say assign this to an empty string, and then we finally want to send that message. So we're going to say socket.emit, and here we're going to say emit the message, and here we're going to pass the username. That's my username, and then we're going to say message, the message we fetched, and finally, where do we want to send that? We want to send this to the room that we connected to. And that is it. So if we head to the front end and we refresh this, we can join a room and we can send a message. We can say hello there. And here is the message that we send. But this doesn't make a lot of sense because we're essentially sending a message to ourselves. So we want a second client to connect. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to grab this chat1.html file and we're going to duplicate it. So we're going to copy that, we're going to paste it, and I'm going to say chat2. And here we're going to go, and the only thing we need to change is this one here. So we had J Smith, we can have J Doe. Okay, so once we have this, we can go to our terminal and we can essentially use what we used here. I'm going to open another terminal. So we're going to say frontend, and we're going to run the command we did before. So if we refresh, this is correct now. So now that we've got this, I'm going to push this to the side, put this here, push this to the side, and we've got our two chat systems here. So if we join the main room here, and here I'm going to join the main room, look. So here I get that JDoe joined the room, which is myself here, but the other user gets it as well. So here I can say, hello there, send the message, and the message goes. And this user can say, hello Doe, and the chat works. And we can leave the room and re-enter the room. And here is our chat history. However, if I refresh this and I join another room called other, and I join, see that we don't get another message here. So if I say hello there, we don't get the message because we're in a different room. So if I leave the room and I go and join the other room, so the problem with here is I'm not clearing the messages. So I'm just going to refresh this and I'm joining the other room and we get it here. So we can say hello there and we get it. So essentially you have to be in the same room to get the messages. That's how we wired this application. There's one more thing I want to show you, and we're going to go to our application, and that is the connection event. So here we can say add socketio .on connect, and here we need a function. I'm going to say on connect, and here we're grabbing the authentication. Okay, so let me explain what is happening here. So the connection event is an event that happens whenever a user tries to connect to our backend WebSocket server. So essentially this happens whenever a browser connects. So if we try and print this, this will be none because we're not passing any authentication at any of our front ends. So if I head here and I refresh this and we go to our terminal, we're getting none. Okay. However, if we wanted to add some sort of authentication to not let everybody in our application, we could do that here. So let me show you exactly how to do this here. So we're going to head here where we're instantiating IO. And here we can pass a dictionary, and here are our options. So the first one that is important is auth. Okay. So we're going to say auth. I'm going to pass a dictionary, and here I'm going to say token is equal to 1, 2, 3. Okay. So we've got this, and if we head back and we refresh this, we get token 1, 2, 3. So essentially we could have some sort of logic that checks if the token is correct. So you wouldn't hard code it like I've done now, but you would potentially use the JWT and validate that the user has a valid JWT, or even an authentication role. So here I'm going to say if auth.get token, and here I'm going to say not equal to 1, 2, 3. So if it's not equal to that, I want to refuse the connection. So I'm going to say raise connection refused error. And here I'm just going to say unauthorized. Okay. So this is all we want to do. So if we go here and we refresh, we join the main room and we say hello there, it works. However, if we try and do it with the user that hasn't passed the authentication and we join the main room, see, we don't get any messages because this user is unauthenticated. So if we say hello there, nothing happens. So we need to add that to the other user as well. So we're going to go here and we're going to go here. We're going to pass a dictionary. We're going to say auth, and then we're going to pass the token. And like we said, the token is 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we're going to save that. We're going to refresh this. We're going to join the main room. And now it works. So hello there, my friend. And it works perfectly fine. So this is how you want to handle authentication with Socket.io. You want to do it on the connection event. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you have, please like, comment and share the video, as this helps the channel grow so I can keep making these videos. I upload new videos every week about Python and related frameworks, so if you want to get notified when I do, please subscribe as well as click the notification bell so you can be notified whenever a new video is released. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.